Good day, Africa, and welcome to AAU Talks on AAU TV. We are streaming live on Facebook. You visit our page, Association of African Universities, and you can join the conversation on Twitter. You can also join us through our handle AAU_67, and also on YouTube, you can follow the discussions live. Today, in the studios, I have the organizers of the first African Student Leadership Capacity Development Training, and we'll be talking about the aftermath of the whole event, which, as you were following, we streamed over last week. Okay, so we'll go for a quick commercial break, and when we come back, I will introduce my guests, and then we can start the whole discussion.
What do you think about when you think of success?
Success is about hard work. Success is about knowledge and applying it for the good of the community. Success is about skills development. It's about creating innovative ideas and building a hope and making it a reality. Success is about having big dreams and chasing them. Success is nurtured here. We as National University of Science and Technology stand as the only key you can use to unlock doors for success. When you think of success, think in other terms.
Welcome back. This is AAU TV. Let me introduce my guest. On my left, beginning from the able man here, he is Mr. Kwesi Sam. Mr. Kwesi Sam is a project officer here at the AAU. He's a former student leader, and also, as I mentioned, he's an organizer of this particular training. Then, in the middle, we have the beautiful lady, Miss Irene Dufie Addai. Miss Irene is also a project officer here at the AAU, also a member of the organizing committee. And then we have the gentleman here, also is a former student leader, in the person of Mr. Frank Adjei. Mr. Frank Adjei is also a finance officer here at the Association of African Universities. Welcome, gentlemen, lady.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to have you here on AAU Talks.
Yeah, we are glad that we could come.
All right. We are talking about the aftermath of the program, the African Students Leadership and Capacity Development Training. So I'll start from you, Mr. Kwesi Sam. What informed this whole program, African Students Leadership?
Okay. So warm regards to all constituents and then our viewers across the entire continent, and then also special regards to our participants who really made the African Leadership Summit a successful one. Now, AAU for the past 50 years has been looking at top management training and making sure that the university has the best of leadership in terms of having the best vice chancellors on the continent, having the best middle level managers, so that at least we would be able to have the best of institutions to achieve the purpose for which they were established. So for the past 50 years, we've been handling a lot of leadership and management workshop, such as the LEDEVs, the MADEVs, and then aside these two, there is also university advancement. Okay. And all these leadership programs are geared towards the senior management of the universities. And so last year, when AAU celebrated its 50th anniversary, we thought it wise that it was about time we picked on the other constituent of the university, which is made up of students. And student leaders now, they play a very critical role in our universities. So in as much as you are training the vice chancellors, you are training the registrars, you are training the deans, directors of finance, and other key stakeholders, we thought it wise that it is also very important that we engage the student leaders as well, because now they are handling huge budgets in our universities. They are serving on series of boards at the university level. Okay. And so we felt that in as much as we are giving training to the top leaders, we need to also touch base on the student leaders, grant or give them the necessary knowledge, skills, grooming that they need, so that when they sit on such boards, they will be able to, number one, represent their colleagues very well, and also respond positively to the managerial issues that they will be confronted with. So that was why we thought it wise as an institution, right from last year, to groom the new leaders or new crop of leaders who will be elected into office for the next academic year. Okay.
Kwesi, let me get a quick one from you. So what were some of the expected outcomes that you were expecting?
So like I said, this is from May, June, these are the periods, April, May, June, actually, these are the periods where new leaders are elected into offices, be it the SRCs, that is the Student Representative Council, that is for what we know in Ghana. And every continent, every university across the continent has its own way of calling their student front. And so in Ghana, we have the SRCs, we have the local NUGs, and then we also have other key people who form the basic constituents of our student leadership. So they were elected into office. Some of them come into office already with some ideologies. They come into office with some kind of precept, some identity. They have some thought and everything. So the expected outcome of this workshop was, number one, to grant or to give them the opportunity to explore themselves very well, to identify their leadership roles and skills, and also groom and prepare them with critical issues in our universities, like student support services. As they are leading students, what are the support services available to their colleagues? We also wanted to make sure that they are abreast with knowledge about university governance. If you are an SRC president, if you are representing the student front, how well do you understand the university governance? When you are representing them on board, how well do you know what you are supposed to do? So basically, these were the ideologies behind this workshop.
Okay. Miss Irene, let me get to you. This is the aftermath, and so maybe just give us an overview of the participants present. Were they from all universities in Ghana, or what happened?
What happened with our program was that we invited every university, both private, both public, to join us in our first leadership program, which we had just last week. Fortunately or unfortunately, not most of them responded to our call, and I would like to take this moment to appreciate Madam Juliana of Gempa. She foresaw the importance of this meeting and brought about 22 student leaders from Gempa. She went to the extent of even bringing departmental leaders, because she foresaw the importance of this training that we are given to the student leaders. We had students from Africa University of Communications, College of Communications. We had Presbyterian University. We had KNUST. And so we had quite a number of student leaders representing from the 5 universities. And we want to encourage other universities. We want to encourage them that during the subsequent ones, they make it. Because looking at student leaders, these are the same people that are going out to handle future positions in the country. And so it is essential that when such programs are being organized, they make them take part of it. It's not only about the entertainment side, being a leader. That is basically how student leaders perform in our universities, but rather to help them, embolden them, empower them. So these are some of the people that came for the program.
Mr. Adjei, in the build-up to this program, what was your expectation?
Let me also start from where Kwesi started from, and then basically, because as AAU, our mandate, or let's say what we previously had been focusing on, was the university leadership and management. But the point again is that if all these people are working so well, management working so well, leadership working so well, who are the direct beneficiaries of whatever they are going to do? It is the students. So there was that need that at any particular point in time, the people that we are working for, we would also, if there is anything we could do, to also put them at the same level, because trust me, we were having management, leadership, and development programs for the lecturers, the management, and other things. So if at the end of the day, the students, which are the direct beneficiaries of all these things we teach them, are par, or let's say they are at a different level, it wouldn't be good. So the expectation was that let us bring all these people together, the people that we are focusing on, that is the students. Let's see what we can also equip them with them, so that at any point in time, they will be in line with our core mandate, being the university. So that was the general outcome. That is what we're expecting. And I think so far it's been good. From what even the students themselves are saying, I think we've done a great job there.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Let me add a little to you know, AAU is hosting the CESA cluster on higher education. And it talks about the fact that we need to ensure that when you pick up the university, the various sectors of the university are given the requisite knowledge in terms of administration and everything. And so it was part of our vision in fulfilling the CESA. And the CESA is the Continental Education Strategy for Africa from 2015 to 2025. So as part of our mandate, that is how come we also gave out that team even for the program, and also make sure that student leaders have the knowledge to make sure that they are able to execute their roles excellently at the university.
Because at the end of the day, it is going to be between management and then the students. So if the management are equipped and the students are not equipped, I don't think you will be able to achieve the main objective of giving the training in the first place.
That is interesting. So is it that, Miss Irene, did you have a mix of SRC presidents, and then we also have student representatives like the USAG, we also have the GRASAG, we also have the NUCS, National Union of Ghana Students. Did you have representations from all these?
Yeah, we had representation from KNUST GRASAG, their graduate school. We had a representation from KNUST NUCS. They were also here, and as I already said, GEMPA, for instance, went beyond all the major leadership groups and brought even departmental leadership. So I think it was fairly shared. It wasn't like a particular group. Even if it's student leaders, it's mostly we were encouraging more of the SRC, but we found out that we could open it to adjust the rest of the leadership positions. So we had the women's commissioners, we had the treasurers, we had the financial controllers, we had secretaries, and all of that in the program too.
That is interesting. Let me throw a quick one before we go for a commercial break. We talk about the opening ceremony. We had a host of people we invited for this particular program, and then later we find that some of them showed up and then some did not show up. What went in there? What happened during the opening ceremony? Let me start from you, Mr. Adjei.
I think the opening ceremony was an opportunity to a lot of the stakeholders. We had people coming from, we had some, not even a lecturer, we had a dean coming from Wisconsin. Apart from that, we had some past student leaders at the African continent level, and then also at the national level. And then we had some few people coming to share their experiences, and then to urge the student on, to let them know the essence of whatever we had put in place. And I think that set the ball rolling for the main event to have kicked off.
Yeah, to add a little to that, you know, Kweku, definitely these student leaders are naturally going to be, in the next few years, they're going to handle the national politics. They're going to play key roles in our government as a country. And so one key person that we did everything possible to get him coming was the Honorable Acquah, who has risen through student leadership and has, I won't say he's occupying the highest, but one of the highest offices. He's been a deputy minister before, and then also now a member of parliament of our country. And so he has a lot of knowledge and skill to share with student leaders. So we did everything possible to get him, but unfortunately at the latter minute, and because of his schedules, we couldn't get him coming. But we had equally good representation. We had the Secretary General of AAU, who has been a minister before. He's also been a vice chancellor before. So he had quite good knowledge to share with the participant. We had the director of finance of the Association of African Universities also present, that is Mr. Maxwell Amuhoit. He was really enthused about the entire event, and he shared some few thoughts with them as well. And like Frank rightly said, we had Mr. Fred Acquah. He was actually one of our resource persons, and he is a former Secretary General of All African Student Union. So he has been on the continent over years, and even prior to his appointment as his election as the SG for ASU, I think Fred was with Nooks. He was with Nooks, and he has also risen through the ranks from class prefect. He shared with us from class prefect throughout his student life and everything. So we had quite a balanced field, people with experience and knowledge who shared great things with the participants, and I think it was a good start.
All right, so we will get into the programming and what went into the programming, but then we'll go for a quick break. Hello viewers, in case you just joined us, this is AAU TV and this is the show AAU Talks. We've been discussing the aftermath of the African Student Leadership Capacity Development Training Workshop, which AAU organized over last week. And then we've been talking about the background of the workshop. We've talked about what went into the opening session. We'll go for a break, and when we get back, we'll go to our organizers and talk about the programming of the whole workshop.
Anyone can get an education, but not everyone gets quality education. It's never too late to acquire it. The University of Lusaka, a modern private university located off Ali Kinkata Road in Lusaka, Zambia, offers undergraduate, master's and PhD degree programs in the School of Business and Management, Law, Economics, Banking and Financial Services, Public Administration, Governance and International Relations, Education, Engineering and the Built Environment, and Health Sciences. Our curriculum is practical and designed to meet the changing needs of employers, business and society. Because at Unilas, we make students think outside the book. Our driving force is a passion for quality education. We build graduates fit for purpose. Enroll now for January or June intakes. For more information, log on to www.unilas.ac.zm.
Welcome back. This is AAU Talks. Let's get into the programming. Okay, so we are taking the programs one after the other. And then you talk about what went into that. So day one, we were talking about strategic leadership and university governance. What informed this particular topic?
Okay, so Frank made a submission before we went for the break, and then he made mention of the fact that student leaders are put into offices to speak on behalf of their colleagues. Most often than not, because they don't understand the managerial structures of the universities, there are decisions that managers take, and it may not directly have a benefit on the student front. And all that student leaders do is to protect, they gang up against the management. And we've had quite a number of such cases over the years. So we felt like, look, in as much as we are representing our student front, we need to also have a baseline knowledge on what happens in the management of the universities. If we are talking about academic board, what is the relevance of a student leader serving on academic board? If we are talking about the university council, if you are there as an SRC president, if you are there as a representative, what at all are you supposed to do? And what is the significance to student leadership? So we wanted the student leaders to understand the university management system. Who is the vice chancellor? What is his role? Who is the dean of students? What are the things that are expected of them as vice chancellors? So that if your VC is not living up to expectation, will you know as a student leader? And most often, when students are cheated, we are the only customers. When you are cheated, we are happy. For example, if your lecturers decide not to come for lectures, we are happy. If anything happens, we are happy because we don't want to go to school and things of that nature. And so how will you know as a student leader that your dean of students is living up to expectation? Do you even know the TORs, the terms of reference, who becomes a dean of student? So we wanted them to understand the management and the leadership at the university level, and where SRC president and student leaders fit into the system.
That is interesting. I also see a very interesting topic here, ethical issues in student leadership. I also see strategic student leadership and accountability, strategic thinking, planning and implementation of student policies. These are well thought out programs. Miss Irene?
Yeah, I think I will talk of the financial part of the topic.
Yeah.
Mostly student leaders are given huge sums of money to handle. And what happened and what we are familiar with student leadership is they mishandle their monies. They don't have the right knowledge to go about the huge sums of money. And sometimes it overshadows them because they've not come into contact with such huge sums of money. And so what happens is that they need the requisite training to go about it. Who signs the money for us? Why is this money being disbursed? Is it in the interest of the student? The monies are being disbursed. And so this training, when this topic was put across, we felt it was essential because these are some of the things that would help anyone's administration. Some of the SRC's administrations leave their offices with debts. Some of them to leave with zero balances in their account because they don't have the proper structures to manage their accounts. As Kwesi had already said, sometimes they even have problems with the handlers of the accounts. Sometimes the dean of students and all that. They don't have the kind of cooperation that would enable smooth running of accounts and all of that. I think this is the same thing that happened with the University of Cape Coast. I think they are somehow afraid, let me put it like that, afraid of their dean of students. So when we had even sent...
Wait, so is it, did it come up during the workshop or it was something that happened?
No, when you look at it, it didn't come out of the workshop. Even before the workshop, we have discovered that problem with University of Cape Coast leadership and then their dean of students, because they were afraid to go see the dean of students who is willing to give them money to come for the program. Why is it so? The rapport between them. That is why we felt it was essential to do this kind of programs, help them with their communications with their senior management, help them with themselves, within themselves, what they would do.
Then that means, did UCC present?
They were not able to come.
Finally. But you see, for what happened in UCC is that, you know, most of the universities have proper audit systems, some of them.
Yes.
And so you cannot just get up and say that I'm attending a program. You go into the SRC account and pick money. You need to go through the processes. And some of them are so strict that if you don't do it on time, you wouldn't get the money. So I think that is what happened in UCC. And before the money is given to you, I think you have to answer some questions and everything. And
that was just by the way. Exactly. Okay, Mr. Frank Adjei, what was your experience for the day, considering these topics that we
I think it was laudable. It was laudable, and then not because maybe I'm part of the organizers. If you speak to the students, they'll tell you. You speak to people that even came around, they will also tell you. Just to add to what my colleagues also said, sometimes when you're a student leader, it just takes a little thing just to spark any controversy or something. Even from the administration point of view, students will come into office. Sometimes they may not have a lot of knowledge about even how the operations of the universities are, what to do, what not to do. When you are confronted with a problem, where do you go to? So I think it was timely because with the strategic leadership and also the explanations we gave them about the ins and outs of the university management, so they are well equipped now. They know that if you encountered or you encounter problem A or problem B, this is where you have to go. Sometimes because of just lack of little information or something, people are so suspicious and things you do not even have to boil up. They just pick it high, and the next thing you hear is an aluta. So I think it cleared the air. Cleared the air. They asked most of their questions, and the resource persons we brought to very equipped.
In the person of Mr. Acquah,
Fred Acquah was there. Professor Goski was there.
Okay. Miss Irene.
There is
there is a highlight of the day.
Yes.
I see an interesting topic here.
Yeah.
Agenda 2063
Yeah.
and the role of student leaders.
Sure. That's right.
What, because I see that this is kind of coming from somewhere and then being fit into the program as a general forum.
Yes.
What informed this decision on this particular
as,
topic?
People who regularly watch us, this is something we discuss. We discuss the Agenda 2063, and the main reason why we do this is when we check the time frame. Before we get to 63, we will be the ones in position. The student leaders will be the one in position. So it was time to enlighten us what Africa has for us and what we have to do for Africa. And I think it was one of the most interesting sessions because we divided the groups into 7. We gave each of them their aspirations, and then they had to sit down for about 30 minutes to come out to give their opinions about it. And when you go back to the program, you saw so much enlightened opinions and ideas from the students. Some of them, it was their first time getting to see the agenda, the book. They had not even heard from it. And then these are the things that makes us happy, because at the end of the day, we are advocating for the youth to know that this is what Africa has for us. This is what we can do. And so that part, I think, was the best part for me, the first day, aside all the parts that we had. But we had to know the level of intelligence the students have, their knowledge, and how wide it is, and how good our education system has shaped the minds of these students.
I was glad I did not miss that particular session. I was sitting there, and at some point, the students will be presenting the way forward. And I will look at Kwesi and say, wow, put this down.
We did exactly.
So in case you missed that particular session,
you can
go back to our Facebook page and then review all the videos, and then you come across that we had interesting suggestions coming from the students, and then you ought to see that. Okay,
let me just add a little to what Adjei said. It was really fantastic because when you look at the entire agenda, the voice of the youth or young people on the continent is a bit silent.
Okay.
And then, just as Adjei rightly said, these are people who are going to handle higher positions. I'm sure Adjei will be the next AU chair some few years to come, and then Frank will be occupying a higher office on the continent or beyond. And you know, I'll be the US Secretary General.
You know, all of you are students. All of you are students. Exactly. Frank was a student leader. Is it financial controller for
Nooks
and also GABS? Yes.
Well.
And you were also a GRASAG secretary for UCC, and Adjei also had a lot of activities going on for her. So
the background.
It was good.
The cheerleaders.
It was good. We were all there because it was not training just for the students.
Yeah. So,
and then
so
for all of us,
you just said it rightly. But then, for me, I was so much inspired because we had brilliant ideas coming from these young ones, and things that you may not have even thought of or mentioned.
Exactly.
Okay, and that was the part that I felt like, no, if we even have a bigger forum where we are listening to some of these ideas, there are things that they can do within their domain as student leaders. They can do in their domain as young people. Okay, and they were amazing. And the report will be out. We'll publish the report so that any young person who is interested in...
we need a report
because
most
I
of
find
us
amazing about this workshop was immediately the leaders, like Mr. Acquah will say something, the SRC president will hit on the secretary, write this down. When we go, we are going to do this in our school. So it was time for them to know a lot and then not.
Okay, I know the one was interesting, but let's go to day 2. That was on the Wednesday. We had topics like personality development, branding, and team building. And we had our able project officer who is also a counselor, psychologist, everything. And then he was also the leader. So I would not make him assess his part, because if I do that, it means he's going to say a lot of good things about himself.
Oh God.
Adjei, so what do you make of that particular session?
What I find interesting about that session was when they were given the papers to assess themselves. And this one was saying, I'm a team worker, I'm a leader. And then what we were thinking of was right now, when we are developing our CVs, we just write the general things on our CVs.
I'm a hard worker. I'm a critical thinker.
But when they came here, they know that they have to go and edit their CVs. It was the things that they were saying because they found what is inside them, what is genuinely what they can do well. Some of them were welfare officers and all of that. So it came out that some of them were leaders, natural leaders, and it was true to their position that they were having. So the psychological part of the test, I think, was interesting, which Kwesi has not even done some for us. But
we all know because it came out clearly that you are one type and I am another type. And knows. That's right. Frank Adjei knows. Yeah. And so, but then one interesting thing that happened, you know, it was the fact that we had SRC presidents and they were working in groups. You know, you are an SRC president, you have the secretary, you have all the groups, and as it came out, you found out that Mr. Frank, were you there for that particular session?
No, I think I was there for a moment, and I dashed that. But I think it's talking about teamwork, and the little even I observed. How we even grouped the students to come out, because when there is something, we just divide them into groups and say, come out and present on this. And you could see them
the
even
cohesion, what they had.
The teamwork that they had even.
And what would add to it? They were not from the same school.
That's the point.
They were different from different schools, but they worked together. So I think it's a platform to bring all of us together, share ideas, know who we are, identify our strengths and our weaknesses.
Okay.
And so can I?
Oh God.
Okay. You see, student leaders, sometimes you get into office, and one thing that takes us aback is that there are divisions. You come, and instead of you to put yourself together and fight for the common agenda for which you were elected into office, they come and certain things start dividing them.
Exactly.
So I was very happy when I saw that topic.
Yes.
That
personality development, team building.
Because everyone has its own persona.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, we should be able to put all the personas together
and work.
For the common. So I was.
So I will unleash Kwesi. But Kwesi, before I unleash you, I need to put time on you because I know you can say a lot about
I'll
this.
just say something very simple.
So 1 minute. I'm putting you on time. 1 minute.
Okay. So just as I've been zoned, I have only 1 minute to talk about it. But the interesting part, I've done this topic and this training over the years. But what really inspired me was the fact that, you know, unlike the churches where we come from the same background, and some groups, if you have a homogeneous group, they have the same ideologies. But in student leadership, the difficult thing is that during the campaign, we all belong to different political caucuses. Not politics and national politics, but hey, two presidents may be running, and then one of the other side is taken for the women's commissioner in the other camp. And then, so when that women's commissioner doesn't win, you find out that there are a lot of friction.
Yes.
So you may have a secretary who may be on your position, and this person may come into office with a direct mindset of coming to sabotage your administration. That's right. And that is very difficult. So they enter into offices, they fight for the 6 months, and then they work for the next 4 months. And when they are handing over, they write a very long list of recommendations. I recommend that, and it's very disturbing. But we were able to point out for the fact that you must be able to work with opposition. When we are working, we think we should work with people who think like us, who act like us. So there were a series of examples and workout sessions. And then, just as Adjei said, when they finished, at least you could see that kind of cohesion, and people had already made some kind of ideas, and they've made decision that now I can work best with my women's commissioner, because I know that is who she is. These are the strength of hers, and these are the weaknesses.
Your 1 minute.
And I think I will end.
Mr. Kwesi Sam is a psychologist, and so he speaks to these issues on several platforms. So if you also want to engage him, you can
$1,000
talk to him, and then he comes to your church, your whatever platform, he comes to deliver, and he's very impressive. And I really love that session because at the end of it, though I didn't take the personality test because I was afraid of what I would find out. Yeah, because maybe So I didn't take, but I want to take it later on.
$1,000.
But then
So simple.
one thing I realized was the students saw it fulfilling.
Exactly.
They realized that, oh, okay, that is why this person does that, this person does that. So it was interesting. And still, if you also miss that session, go back to the videos and then review. It's very interesting, and then it will be
Highly
very
educative.
helpful to educative. It will help you. So please go to our Facebook page, Association of African Universities, and then go and review all the videos we had for last week. Okay, quick one for Wednesday. Finally, we also did resource mobilization and proposal writing. Very interesting topic. Financial management, budgeting and financial integrity.
Sure.
We also did, yeah, those are some of the topics. So basically day 2 was about resource mobilization, the finance and budgeting. And so right now, I'm sure that Mr. Frank Adjei
Who handle the finance and budget?
yes, because yes, we wanted him to actually kind of take that particular session, facilitate, but then he also had some other engagement, so we didn't get him here. So, Mr. Frank Adjei, you were there. You've also watched the videos and all that. What do you make of this particular?
I think this was helpful from the student point of view, because a lot of the time, a lot of student leaders face challenges, especially with their students. You finish your term, you may not even finish your term, and people will come with all kind of allegations that you have embezzled funds.
Chop chop.
And sometimes it may not be so, because not all these student leaders have that training to say that, okay, what are the rules of the game, what are the rules of the engagement when it comes to finance management, what do we have to do? Sometimes it could just be maybe a simple error in the financial system, and people can just pick that one on and say you have embezzled some funds. You could come into office, you do great job, you do whatever you're supposed to do, but at the end of the day, that simple thing that we could just turn around with could tarnish everything that you have done. So I think it was timely, it was on point, and the resource person also did so well going into, because the point is that when you come into office, you're a student. You have never managed any funds before. You do not know the kind of documentations you need. And in the finance circles, we say an accountant is as good as his documents.
Exactly.
So if you do not have the right documents to support whatever you are saying, I don't know, the people can come up with all sort of allegations.
So
so it was on point. Now we have been able to clear that way for them. So it's now up to them when they go, they stick to the principles that we taught them.
Exactly.
That at any point in time in finance, the catchword is evidence.
all right.
If you said you've spent this amount of money,
Bring your
where is the
receipt.
evidence?
That shows that you
And
did.
that's the point. And sometimes you may even have the evidence, but maybe it was not properly approved.
Yeah.
There's always an authority, the authority to give the go-ahead that we should spend this amount of money. And after that, you need evidence also to support it. So,
Mr. Frank, if I'm supposed to leave you, like, you also talk about a whole
That is
session,
his domain,
because that's your domain. Just like I restricted Kwesi, so I have to restrict you to. Okay, let's quickly jump to day 3, which we had interesting personalities also present during that day. We had Mrs. Araba Bochwe from the Ashesi University College. We also had Professor Alabi Goski also present, and then Mr. Fred Acquah again was present. He was running through the program because of his position. We talked about student support services and financial aid. That same day, we did hooliganism and crime prevention on university campuses. We also did gender mainstreaming in higher education. We cannot do without talking about the gender dimension of things. We also did career development and the future of work. I know Adjei would like to speak to gender mainstreaming.
She says all of them.
But then she says all of them. So, Adjei, hooliganism, student support services,
I think the
gender
third
mainstreaming.
day, from my perspective, I think the third day was one of the best. If it's not the best, it should be second or yes. We talked about gender mainstreaming. Madam Araba Bochwe also talked about student support we talked about student support, and what we found out about the student support is that we should make it, we should brand it well, so that students who cannot afford are not shy to come to seek for help, to seek for aid. You know, student leaders are there. The perception in our head is that student leaders are there for their own interest, and so they don't think about what other students are going through.
Exactly.
But when you talk about Acquah and then their student support, you know, it's a well defined range of support they have for the the students, the assistants, including counseling and everything. These are things that set universities apart. It sets Acquah apart from other students because this kind of services are well thought of and put in place. And let me go to the gender mainstreaming. What I find interesting about that day was when Professor Goski was talking about the gender mainstreaming in higher education. The men were quickly to point out that why are we so much emphasizing on things about women? It seems you are neglecting the men, which I found not right. Let me put it that way. Which I find, let me put it this way. I think we've limited the problems that women are going through, and so we don't even see the essence of talking about it. But when she talked, she elaborated on even the moods and emotion of women even during some times. And then we might not even understand. But these are part of nature and you can't even do anything about it. It even went to the extent of we talking about women can't hold some positions because they might give birth and all of that.
You're getting emotional
about this story.
But you see, right now I'm also sensing that I have to also time you.
Yes,
so your time is up.
Wait, let me go. And so I think gender mainstreaming is important. We put in our education.
Okay.
We should look more into that. And I think our support system should be put in place that people who are not privileged, like some of us, could use that.
Kwesi, what was the takeout for that particular day for students, leaders, and what they take into their universities?
That day was interesting, and I think I sat through the gender mainstreaming topic, and I was surprised to the extent that a lady just raised her hand and said, "It appears we have been talking about women over the years, but we rather neglect as in the men, because the men also have issues." And it was very interesting. At a point, some of the men were saying that now the women should also start paying bride price and everything. And some also said there shouldn't even be a price at all because we are all moving to a point where we want to have the equal platform. And I think that was very, very important. At the end of the day, the women commissioners in the room really understood why they are women and what they can do to support their constituent in terms of programming and everything. For example, handling sexual harassment issues on the campuses, and they understanding the fact that they may experience it all the time, and so they should come up with services that will really support them. Building the confidence in women is also very key, and they must do same. For student support services, like we said, that day one we looked at the student policies. Every administration after election, even throughout the campaign, they have their own policies and agenda and everything. Whether they are student friendly or not, they don't care. But after that presentation, we had a forum where all the student KNUST brought out the services they render to students. GamePad did the same, Presbyterian University did the same, and AUCC also did the same.
So even it was a platform to learn from.
To learn, and I love that session because GamePad shared their driving lessons, that they offer driving lessons to students. And KNUST said, we want to learn from that. PUCG said they would want to learn from that and upscale it. And they also shared similar experience. And to me, it was the best. It was the best for me for the day.
That is interesting. And it was a good takeout, you know, for such workshops.
Exactly.
So let's quickly go to day 4, the final day. So we had, we also did University Students and Industry Partnership, which was delivered by Mr. Ransford, who is also a senior project officer at AAU in charge of university industry linkages. We also did the Driving Africa's Development Agenda through active youth participation. And also we did some studio sessions where the students were they discussed a lot of issues on the continent and all those. So final day.
Okay, so I don't know if I'm supposed to go first.
No, Mr. Frankaji.
Let me just come in.
Okay.
I think the highlight on that day for me was the university industry linkages.
Okay.
That's the point. This has been a problem, not even for the African continent, but the world as a whole. A lot of students would come out with all the grades, and then the industry is also there. But how these students will be able to fit into the industry becomes a challenge. So it's important that our students are on campus during that period. If we could have programs that will link them between the industry and then academia. By academia, I mean the students. And so even if the students could have, or the institutions could have modalities in place for students to have internships and some training, because most people will graduate and then they tell them that you need this number of years of experience before you're employed. Okay. So the question is, where do you get all these experiences from? Okay. So if there are modalities in place such that the students are able to equip themselves while they're in school, it will be excellent. So I think the resource person we brought on board also to handle that, he did justice to the topic. And now the students are aware where they can seek help. Yes,
where they can collaborate with industry.
I think that was the highlight for me for that day.
Okay, that is interesting. We will go for a quick break, and when we're back, we will talk about the recommendations for the way forward. Okay, viewers, in case you just joined us, this is AAU Talks. We're talking about the aftermath of the African Student Leadership Training that took place here at the Association of African Universities. We've been talking about the overview of the whole program. Stay with us. When we come back, we will talk about the way forward and then what you should expect from AAU.
What do you think about when you think of success?
Success is about hard work. Success is about knowledge and applying it for the good of the community. Success is about skills development. It's about creating innovative ideas and building a hope and making it a reality. Success is about having big dreams and chasing them. Success is nurtured here. We as National University of Science and Technology stand as the only key you can use to unlock doors for success. When you think of success, think in other terms.
Welcome back. Let's quickly wrap up because we don't have enough time. Okay. All right. So I've seen that this was an interesting program we had over last week. And as a program like this, I'm sure organizers, you have some things that came up and then you also have the way forward in terms of what happens next. Yeah. I'm sure there's not a one-stop activity. You have plans for the future. So Mr. Kwesi Sam, what are the plans for the future going forward?
Okay, quickly. So just as we said from the beginning, this was a pilot one, and we are not too much sure of how it was going to be because AU, we've been handling the topmost management, and so we didn't know how the terrain will be. But I think the feedback has been so great. In the course of planning, Nigeria requested for the same training.
So you're replicating the training in Nigeria.
So from 24th to 28th of September, we are partnering with the University of Port Harcourt, Uniport in Nigeria, and we're having the same. And then Kenyans also express the same interest. And I think it's something that we need to do across the continent to make sure that the student leaders are abreast with the current issues that will empower them to execute their mandates with such professionalism.
Okay, so plans for Ghana.
So plans for Ghana, I think Adjei will handle plans for Ghana.
What happened, what interesting thing happened was that we gave it to the student to decide who wants to host the next one. And we saw lobbying there. Gempa says it has the best facilities to host. So we decided to vote, and we voted in KNUST 1. So our next one is in Kumasi. And then would be happy, since it's in Kumasi, all the other regions and the northern belt would join, and then those two from Kumasi would also join. I think when we started it, we didn't have so much hope and expectation. I think this has been over our expectation.
With 60
and
participants.
then they are willing to host for us for the next one. And so we have our next one next year coming up in Kumasi.
And I'm sure you've even developed the flyer.
Yes, the flyer is
we
ready.
Have the
It's
flyer.
already ready.
And the amazing thing is that, you know, the recommendation for this workshop and then the report to be ready.
Okay.
And then, you know, I don't know what happened, but right after the workshop, people started calling. And find out when is the workshop coming off.
That's right.
Good.
And then
That
it was
is interesting. It speaks to the achievement that
because
you had
those
over
who
the
followed
week.
on social media saw the relevance of it, and then they were kind of requesting for more. So I think that they should look out for the recommendation, especially the student support services, where we're talking about the fact that every student who goes to the university must come out with a driver license, must come up with a passport, should be able to swim. There are basic things that we need to do. And so these are the policies that we want to engage stakeholders and make sure they are done.
Mr. Frank Adjei, your general overview, impression, last words for this particular program.
Thank you. I think that as I've always been saying that on this program and even elsewhere, that student leaders, we need help.
Good.
And the kind of help we need is the training that we are offering as of now.
Okay.
Because a lot of students come into office, they have their passions and everything, and it's imperative that we should be able to direct their passions well, and that is the training.
Definitely.
So the training went so well, and I'm also recommending to my colleagues in the organizing team that the next step should be that we should get into the institutions themselves and get the students, because these ones are the leaders. But if we can get into the institutions and get to the students themselves. Or otherwise, maybe it becomes training for the trainers. The SRC gets all the training, and when they go, they would have to make sure it gets down to the students themselves. And I think by that one, we would have covered all areas, and it will be a thumbs up for all of us.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Frank Adjei. Miss Irene, your final words.
It wasn't really a boring sit-down lecture. I think the Friday evening we had a good cocktail, which the students wine down. They had a bit of fun.
Yeah.
And so these are some of the things. It's not only sometimes being serious.
Yeah.
There should be a time you balance it. And so we had this in the program, and I think we gave out their certificates and then all of that to them. My overall impression, it was a good one. It was a good start, and we hope to make it better. We heard all the things that the student wanted us to input in our programs, all the opinions they gave as to how we should go about our second one. And so we've noted them down. We are going to do exactly that and have a fruitful one in Kumasi.
So the next one will be better.
Yes.
Exactly. Good. So Mr. Kwesi Sam?
How many hours for my final?
Oh, no, just 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Yes.
Okay, I think I will use this platform to thank Data Bank. I think Data Bank, when we shared the idea with them, they bought into it, even though it was at the latter part they came to support us. And I'm using this platform to call on other stakeholders as well, that with the second edition, which will be hosted by KNUST, they should expect a lot more, and that they should be free, as in they should be willing to support these student leaders. It could be any services, any offer at all. We are open, and then you can just come, we discuss it, and then you join us as well. So my general impression is it's been wonderful. I felt so much fulfilled the Friday night. It was real stress for us from day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and the day 5. But when we finished everything and we went through the challenges that we encountered on the way, and the result, I was so much happy, and we look forward to a better one in 2019.
After a long day, after a long week, you did a cocktail and I didn't get a wine.
Yeah.
So you see, quite disappointed.
Let's also use this platform to congratulate you. I think it was your graduation on the Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah. So our host, I think, congratulations for trying to finish the master's degree.
It's in order.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't get a wine, but we'll do one for you.
So I had to also arrange for my graduation. So that is also interesting. Okay. Thank you very much, organizers, for joining me here for this discussion. It's been interesting, and then I hope we'll also use this opportunity to thank AAU senior management for their support during this event. As I understand, it wouldn't have been possible if they did not back this our incredible committee here to do that job. So we'd like to thank all the management from the Secretary General, Professor Etienne Ehile, to all staff of AAU and our incredible crew here at the studio for covering the whole event. It's been AAU Talks, and I am your host, Ankomah Schenineda. See you again later.